In this problem, we're looking at a practice exercise from page 26 of the textbook, and we're going to practice using conversion factors. In this case, we have a distance or a length in miles, and they're asking us to convert it to kilometers. So we can look in the back inside cover of the textbook to figure out what the conversion factor is, and they tell us that 1 kilometer is equal to 0.62137 miles. So right now all this is a statement telling us how many miles are in a kilometer, how many kilometers in a mile. We need to turn this into a conversion factor. Whenever we use a conversion factor, we're really using a conversion factor to change units, and we want the number to essentially stay the same, just changing its units. In order to do this, we can multiply by the number 1, because when you multiply any number by 1, it stays the same. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rearrange this conversion factor to turn it into something that's actually equal to the number 1. In order to do that, what I can first do is I'm going to start by dividing both sides by 1 kilometer. So if I look at the left-hand side of this expression, 1 kilometer divided by 1 kilometer, that really just equals the number 1. And so what I've done here is I've created a conversion factor where I know that 0.06213 miles over 1 kilometer is equal to the number 1. So that's one conversion factor. I could have also done this the other way, so let's rewrite the conversion factor. 1 kilometer, 0.62137 miles. I could have divided both sides by the miles. Now in this case, it's the right-hand side of the equation that's going to be equal to the number 1. So I've got a second conversion factor. And the only difference is which unit is on the top and which unit is on the bottom. So what I've done is I've created 2 different conversion factors. And the reason I needed to create 2 different conversion factors is because I don't know which one I'm going to need to use. It depends on which way they're having me do the conversion. So I've got one conversion factor up here, second conversion factor down here, and now I need to see which one I'm actually using in the problem. So if I look at the starting information in the problem, they told me that I am starting in miles. So I'm starting with 500 miles. I'm going to write that down here. I've got 500.0 miles. And again, the whole point of a conversion factor is to cancel out one unit and get to the unit that we actually want. So I always set up my fraction bar because I know a conversion factor looks like a fraction. I'm going to write my units in first. In order to cancel out the unit of miles, miles needs to be the unit on the bottom of the conversion factor. And since I want units of kilometers, kilometers needs to be the unit on top in the conversion factor. So now all I need to do is pick the appropriate conversion factor that has the units in the correct place. So you can see that that's the second calculation I did. So now I know that 1 kilometer, 0.62137 miles, and I can see very clearly that units of miles are going to cancel out, which is going to leave me with the units of kilometers that they ask for in this problem. So if I go ahead and enter these numbers into my calculator, I'll get an answer that looks something like this: 804.6735439 kilometers. And as we know by now, your calculator can do the math for you, but it cannot figure out significant figures, so we need to go back and look at significant figures. We will not worry about what the conversion factor has in terms of significant figures. We're always going to go back to the original number we started the problem with. So we started with the number 500.0. 500.0 has 4 sig figs, which means my answer can only have 4 sig figs. So I'm going to keep 804 and 1 decimal place. If I look to the right of the number 6, I see a number 7. That means I'm going to round the 6 up because 7 is greater than 5. So I should really write this as 804.7 kilometers. So that is my final answer to this problem. I'm going to circle it so it's very clear what the final answer is. Notice that my final answer has been rounded to the correct number of significant figures, and it has the units included. So make sure when you are turning in your homework problems, you are doing all of these pieces. You are doing the conversion, you are showing your rounding for significant figures, and you include units in your final answer.